What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an absolutely amazing Umbreon, Darkrai EX and Nihilego deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why it works so well together as a deck and why you should check it out. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. It does really help out me and my channel. Without further ado, let's talk about this deck. First, I want to talk about Umbreon. Why? Because I love Umbreon, one of my favorite Pokemon ever. So I needed to make a deck with Umbreon in it because I absolutely love Umbreon. So Umbreon, for 1 dark energy, is Dark Binding. 40 damage. On top of the 40 damage, if the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So you can see in this video, it works really well against this Palkia. Because Palkia is a basic Pokemon, I am attacking the Palkia, and the Palkia is not able to attack back because it's a basic Pokemon. So in general, Dark Binding is going to be a very specific type of move. 40 damage is okay, it's not great, but where Umbreon shines is when Umbreon is attacking basic Pokemon. So its ability and how good Umbreon is going to be is going to depend on the type of deck you're facing. If you're facing a deck that has a lot of basic Pokemon, you're going to be in luck because Umbreon is going to bind them and stop them in their tracks. Couple of Pokemon that are widely used, of course, Buzzwole, Palkia, and of course these are the EX Pokemon, Buzzwole EX, Palkia EX, Giratina EX, Darkrai EX, a lot of EX Pokemon that opponents may use. Of course, you can bind up and stop them from attacking. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of decks, especially right now with the release of the new EV Grove packs, that have evolutions. So if they're evolving, all you're going to be doing is 40 damage. So this ability on top of its attack is going to be hit or miss, but when you hit, it's going to be really solid. So I do love Umbreon. Of course, like I said, it's going to be a niche type attack, but when it hits, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And as I mentioned, it's going to be in the EV Grove packs. Now in this line, I also have the basic EV that you need to evolve into Umbreon. There are a ton of different EVs that have been released over the packs throughout the game. The one I'm using is the one that was just released in the EV Grove packs, and for 1 colorless energy is Collect. You draw a card. Drawing cards is always going to be extremely important. You get cards out of your deck quicker so you can implement your strategy quicker. So utilizing an EV that draws a card is going to be important to success. You can utilize any EV you want. I just like the EV that collects and draws cards so you can get to the cards quicker, because as you can see with this deck, it's going to be very important to get 2 Nihilegos on your bench. It's going to be important to poisoning your enemy, and it's going to be important to have 1 Darkrai on your bench as well. That I'll talk about why all of these Pokemon synergize very well. So now let's talk about Nihilego. If you've been around a little bit, you know Nihilego. Nihilego, for 2 energy, 1 dark, 1 colorless, has New Wave, deals 30 damage, and also poisons your opponent. But that's not really the bread and butter of Nihilego. Nihilego has an ability, More Poison. Your opponent's active Pokemon takes plus 10 damage from being poisoned. So if you poison your opponent's Pokemon, and you have 1 Nihilego on the playing field, Poison now deals 20 damage after each turn. If you have 2 Nihilegos on the playing field, Poison now deals 30 damage after each turn. So having 2 Nihilegos on the field is going to be absolutely awesome, and is really going to eat through your opponent's health. Nihilego is going to be found in the Extra Dimensional Crisis packs. Of course, let me talk briefly about the tool that we got. We have Poison Barb. Poison Barb is going to help poison opponents. The hope and the dream is Umbreon in the active slot with a Poison Barb, 2 Nihilegos on the bench, and 1 Darkrai on the bench. So the strategy of this deck is simple. Umbreon is going to attack your opponent. If Umbreon was already attacked, your opponent's going to be poisoned. So Umbreon attacking a basic Pokemon your opponent has, stopping them from attacking. The poison damage is going to eat away at your opponent, and of course with 2 Nihilegos, it's eating 30 damage after each turn. Umbreon's hitting for 40 and stopping your opponent from attacking, and then you have your Darkrai on the bench, in which you equip energy on your Darkrai and it hits for 20. So in total, if your opponent's poisoned and you have 2 Nihilegos on the bench and you attack with Umbreon, Umbreon deals 40, poison damage is 30, and then equipping energy on Darkrai is another 20. So you can be dealing 90 damage at the end of your turn. That's awesome when Umbreon only deals 40. So that's really cool to be dealing 90 damage at the end of your turn. And then if your opponent doesn't retreat their Pokemon who's poisoned, there's another 30. So that's 120 damage that you could be doing if you have 2 Nihilegos on the field and your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. So that's really cool that you can deal so much damage with this combination. And for those of you who don't know, Poison Barb, if your opponent attacks your Pokemon in the active slot that has Poison Barb, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. And Poison Barb is going to be found in the Celestial Guardians Lunala packs. Now let's talk about Darkrai. I was briefly mentioning its ability. Most of y'all already know what its ability is, but if you don't, its ability is whenever you attach a dark energy from your energy zone to Darkrai, you do 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's where that 20 damage from Darkrai comes in. And it's really awesome to have on the bench dealing that extra damage. Darkrai also has its attack, Dark Prism, for 3 energy deals 80 damage. So when you need to, Darkrai is going to be your damage dealer, but really this deck is more about dealing that damage, chipping away at your opponents. Umbreon stopping any basic Pokemon that are out there from attacking, meaning you're just going to be chipping away at health. Darkrai dealing that extra 20, and then poison damage eating away at your opponent. It's not dealing a huge amount of damage this deck, but you are chipping away, and it's a way to keep your survivability up when your Umbreon is just chipping away at your opponent, not allowing them to attack. So Darkrai is absolutely awesome. It's actually great for many decks, but it's really great here in teaming it up with Umbreon and Nihilego. And Darkrai EX is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Dialga packs. Now we've talked about all of the Pokemon. We've talked about the Poison Barb. Let's talk about the rest of the cards in this deck. A couple of basic ones. Pokeball, you draw a basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. We have a lot of basic Pokemon in this deck. Of course, Darkrai is a basic, Eevee's a basic, and Nihilego is a basic. The only Pokemon that's not a basic that you're going to have to hopefully luck into pulling is Umbreon. Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards, so that's another card that's pretty general and pretty well needed in majority of decks. Next, I have 2 of my favorites, and I've said this in many of my videos. Sabrina and Cyrus are absolutely crucial in a lot of decks. Sabrina, you switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Your opponent gets to choose which Pokemon on the bench that they put in that active slot, but it's great for a multitude of reasons. Maybe you're getting a Pokemon out of that active slot that you just don't want there, and you force a Pokemon into that active slot that your opponent may not want there. It's great for disrupting your opponent's strategy, especially because they're going to have to find a way to retreat their Pokemon. So maybe they have to use energy, maybe they have to utilize a card such as Leaf or X Speed to get their Pokemon out of that active slot, but you're disrupting their strategy and the Pokemon they have in that active slot. You could also force a Pokemon out into the open that you may want to attack, so it's nice for that as well. Sabrina is going to be found in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Cyrus is going to be crucial for this deck. Absolutely 100% you need Cyrus. Reason being is you are going to be poisoning a lot of Pokemon. We're chipping away at opponents' health. Most of the time, we're not going to be one-hit KOing an opponent's powerful Pokemon. We can KO a lot of weaker Pokemon, but we're not going to be able to one-hit KO a lot of powerful Pokemon. So we're chipping away at that health. Our opponent may retreat their powerful Pokemon to the bench to try and find a way just to save that Pokemon. Cyrus isn't going to allow them to do so. Cyrus, you switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has damage on it to the active slot. So we're going to make it so we cannot avoid missing out on finishing a weakened Pokemon on the bench. Cyrus is going to be there to do so. It's absolutely awesome. It's great for a lot of decks, but especially a deck where you're just chipping away at health. Cyrus is going to be great to pull those Pokemon from the bench to the active slot. And Cyrus is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. Last but not least, I have Pokemon Center Lady. Pokemon Center Lady is going to be nice for several reasons. One, if your Umbreon or any Pokemon was attacked and not KO'd, Pokemon Center Lady is going to heal 30 damage and also recover any status condition on your Pokemon. What's great about this is Umbreon needs to be attacked if it has Poison Barb on it. We do want to poison our enemies. Now, it's not going to be insanely awful if we're at least stopping our opponent from attacking with the 40 damage and stopping them from attacking, but it would be nice to allow for our opponent to be poisoned. With that being said, after we poison them and we stop a basic Pokemon from attacking, we can heal up with Pokemon Center Lady. On top of that, we also want to make sure our Darkrai is staying alive. We want to make sure our Nihilegos are staying alive. So Pokemon Center Lady is going to allow for that as well. It's really going to increase the survivability of the Pokemon in our deck. So I like Pokemon Center Lady here because not only are we going to, Umbreon anyway, stop our opponent from attacking us, but if they did attack us first, we're just going to heal that damage. So it's going to be really nice for that. And our opponent is just going to have to damage us all over again. So I love Pokemon Center Lady in this deck. And Pokemon Center Lady is going to be found in the Shining Revelry packs. That's the deck, and it's really great. Of course, Umbreon has its limitations. I love Umbreon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, but it does have its limitations. What's really nice about this deck is you can really just eat away at opponents' health. It does really great against opponents that have basic Pokemon. If they don't have basic Pokemon, you're still going to be okay because we're poisoning enemies. We're taking away their health at a pretty quick rate. The only difference is that for decks that we're facing that don't have a lot of basic Pokemon, we're going to be relying more on that poison damage and Darkrai rather than Umbreon. When we're facing decks that have a lot of basic Pokemon, we can rely more so on Umbreon than the rest of the deck. So there are multiple ways to win with this deck, which is why I like the combination a lot. There are a lot of ways to win. We're not just relying on one Pokemon or another. We have multiple strategies depending upon what deck we're facing. On top of that, you can see the deck I just faced has Oricorio. Oricorio is pretty prevalent. It's going away a little bit because there are a lot of Pokemon that have just come out that are great non-EX Pokemon. Oricorio stops EX Pokemon in their tracks by making it so EX Pokemon cannot damage Oricorio. This is a great deck to counter Oricorio if anyone does hate Oricorio as much as I do, because Umbreon 1 is going to prevent Oricorio from attacking and can take out Oricorio pretty easily. So I do love this deck as well for that. Not made to be an Oricorio counter, but it is a great deck for that as well. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think of this deck. And actually, let me know in the comment section if you love Umbreon as much as I do. One of my favorite Pokemon of all time. If I was building an all-time top 6, because you're able to take 6 Pokemon with you, Umbreon is always going to be in it because I love Umbreon so much. But let me know in the comment section what y'all think of Umbreon and what you think of this deck. Is this a deck that you're going to put together and start utilizing? Are there different combinations in this deck that you sub in or out? What trainers would you use? Do you like the trainers I have in here? Or are there other trainer cards that you'd like to see? Let me know in the comment section. I'm actually also recording right now. I'm putting together a Flareon Charizard deck. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to come out shortly. So be on the lookout for that. If you're interested in a Flareon Charizard deck, that's going to be another one that I'm coming out with shortly as well. I'm still grinding for some more evolutions so I can come up with more evolution packs and decks, because I am so stoked about this EV drop. I love evolutions in general, so I'm really excited they came out with one. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If there are any Pokemon you want to see a deck around, let me know in the comments section. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, peace.